Oh, hello everybody. Sorry I'm late. Little bit of issues loading my most recent post, detailing a lot that we're going to go through tonight. Um, if you haven't been paying attention, and you really have to keep up, we've had a tremendous amount change in Canada, lots with the provinces and Ottawa. This new idea that we're going to come all together and somehow this country is going to be working east to west instead of north to south with the United States, that we can replace all the trade with the United States in this new world coming, so the Crown tells us. What I'm going to go through tonight is deadly accurate by our politicians, the ones named in this post. Absolutely Alberta, can't make it up. I know a lot of people are sleeping. In fact, that post by that second in command in Alberta got 35 likes. No one noticed. Nobody watched. Nobody noticed. Well, I'll tell you one man in this world who did notice, is noticing, is taking stock. And again, if you haven't been following me or paying attention, all of Canada's major trading partners are gone, at least from investment into Canada for the next 3 years. That's absolute. People talk, try to minimize tariffs. Lots of people are coming forward saying this isn't small potatoes. Lots of major cities in Canada already with manufacturing bases are experiencing companies pulling out, pulling the pin, major layoffs, not just automotives. It's far encompassing many, many industries. Now, I'm going to go through some things because people clearly missed it. Again, Donald J. Trump didn't miss it. He worked on all these trading partners core to Canada, which means core to the 10 provinces and 3 territories outside of the United States and outside of China. We're going to get into India now because this has been a shift focus of Donald J. Trump for everybody to understand. You have to understand this. USA has no trade agreement or economic partnership with India. More than that, Canada does. We have specific partnerships with India, very recent ones. In fact, we have a 2013 nuclear pact with India. And for those who don't know, India is one of 7 nations in the world who has nuclear weapons, is increasing their nuclear weapons, isn't signed on to the testing agreement, non-testing of nuclear weapons, didn't sign on non-proliferation. Canada, through the Commonwealth ties with India and absolutely under Ottawa's agreement with India, supplies India with all their enriched uranium needs since absolutely 2013, major changes in 2015, and as of last year, India rapidly increased nuclear ballistic missiles building. They've gone up to 180 now. You can say, like Donald J. Trump's post we're going to get into, his focus, that this is Kazakhstan, Russia. It's not even Russia, it's actually Kazakhstan. But there is another untalked about. That's Canada. And yes, we all know about Saskatchewan. There's no doubt we know the 2 companies. In fact, you can go on the Atomic Agency, you can see those measured sales, volumes, all of it. But there's a third, and there's another company comes out of Alberta. Guess what we can't measure? What, where, how much? We just know a dollar value. There's no source of data. Not available. Can't get it. That's your Alberta in Canada. Another one is nickel. Again, if you don't know about nickel, it's called the metal of war. It's called the metal of war. Now, Alberta, to be fair here, everybody, Alberta uses a lot of source uranium, high source uranium. I know I deal with it, of course, right now in Ontario, but outside of that, in the pressure welding fields, oil field, it is a massive source used to determine non-destructive methods of testing the product quality of my welds. Used to it. That's one. There's a lot of other industry specific to oil, gas, refinery, chemical plants, agricultural plants, making fertilizers, where there's source measurements too on vessels. Very powerful, very powerful. Now it's true, right? That could be a line, just like chemical plants, fertilizer plants, refineries, a ton of nickel and these precious rare earth metals used. There's no doubt Alberta's home to some of the highest advanced that rival space and missile industries. Now, there's no source for that. I can go to Sudbury, the nickel capital of Canada, one of the largest sources in the world, and we can measure all that. I can go through all the companies. I can get their volumes with cent and all that. Again, we get to Alberta. Nobody knows. Top secret, apparently. That's Alberta. We're going to get into posts made by second in command in Alberta. We're going to go through all of it for all Albertans, all Canadians to see. And you tell me, again, okay, Canada, India, both in the Commonwealth, except for India is BRICS. India isn't dealing with the United States. They're absolutely, entirely dealing with Russia and China in BRICS. And when we get into military expansion, nuclear weapons, it would be very irresponsible to say we're not involved in that production, we're not involved in that Russian system, especially Alberta and Saskatchewan have the world's greatest source of highly enriched ore in the entire world. Highest grade, where you're going to see a post coming, where you're going to see several companies involved. Again, one in Alberta, they know. They know. And we can't get any data on that. We can't determine any of it. So without further ado, we're going to go through all of it. You're going to see, you can go look at that post, you can go listen to that politician right here in Alberta just 2 weeks ago. Again, nobody paid attention, but Donald J. Trump is paying attention. Thank you. So yes, I made this slide, and it's all to do with this. And it's President Donald J. Trump issues a warning. He did it again today. India on thin ice. There's going to be punishments for India in BRICS. India with its development of weapons with Russia and China and where it's going. Because again, why everybody? India is not a P5 country. They have zero authority. And we're going to get into all that. But yet Canada, and specifically several Western provinces, are making that happen for India. And they're doing that through the Commonwealth. No other country besides who? Russia and Kazakhstan. The third being Canada, and specifically, yes, Saskatchewan and Alberta. Saskatchewan isn't making social media posts where they're collaborating with India against the United States of America. We don't have Saskatchewan. I can't find Scott Moe or any of his ministers making posts about collaborating with India against the United States of America. That's why I put Danielle Smith there, and of course Mark Carney, because he says they're going to do that, and Danielle Smith, her second in command, is saying they're going to do that. And Donald J. Trump's going to have none of it. So you'll all get to see and determine, and you can all look for yourselves. So here's Donald J. Trump. Now, this is more than 7 hours ago, but this was today, this morning, early. Donald J. Trump, India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchase, selling it on the open market for big profits. They don't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Now, that word war machine is important. We're going to get into that. And again, this is all old things highlighted by former governments saying, hey, opposition, saying, hey, hello, and Canada went on into the war machine. Because of this, I'll be substantially raising the tariff paid by India to the USA. Thank you for attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. This is the second post hammering on India. You've already seen tariffs to India being 25%, plus a specified penalty. There's going to be a big one. And folks, what I want you to understand, 35% tariffs for Canada. There's also automatic 50% tariffs for Canada for any companies that currently aren't tariffed but are caught trying to go around the United States and get into these countries. Those immediately, all of those things caught, which is what I'm going through for Alberta tonight. And of course, everybody, Saskatchewan is going to get hit. The only reason why I don't publish Saskatchewan in this post, they're not hiding anything. Yes, they're selling it. We know that twice the rate of Alberta, but it's open. Everyone can see their books. You know, it's registered. Alberta, everybody, you can't see what. You can't see, you only know how much. You just don't know what or who. What or who. You don't know. And that's alarming. And if you don't understand why that's alarming, you need to read what was released August 1st against Canada, and all companies that try to go around the United States of America will be hit with a 50% tariff. So what I'm getting into here tonight for Alberta, these industries, these trades with India are likely to nail Alberta and these particular companies at 50%. And again, if you want to know, it was in my last post. I went through my last major live. I go through that trade agreement. USMCA does not apply when it comes to national security. And also the reason why a lot of these issues, like the one we're going to go in tonight with Alberta and Ottawa, are reasons why we're not going to get a USMCA renewed. Like I said, it's just, there's so much to unpack almost every single day. It's a beautiful thing following Donald J. Trump because you learn. Oops. Sorry. Another one. So, again, Canada and India have a significant and multifaceted trade relationship despite some recent diplomatic strains, i.e., it looks like India hired people to assassinate people in our country. They're not a P5. That's illegal. In 2023, bilateral trade in goods was valued at $12.7 billion, with Canada exporting $5.1 billion and importing $7.6 billion. Canada maintains, so we have a significant trade imbalance where we are losing out to India big time. They're winning on the trade war. We're a deficit with them by an extremely large margin. And this is what bothers the United States the most, because Canada will go out of its way for countries in the BRICS like India, China, and many other countries that USA is not really big on. And then if you're the USA, okay, Canada has a major surplus with USA, but yet goes out of their way to make all these extra deals with countries that don't reciprocate and are hard on the United States. And then USA's got to look at it like, whose friend are you really? And are you doing this trade to hurt us? Because that's sure what it looks like, because it hurts all the Canadian people. Absolutely it does. You're taking major losses here. This is definitely hurting the Canadian people. And when you start looking at China and India, you realize, like, what's going on here? We're enriching them in all kinds of areas that we signed on with USA in a major trade pact that we wouldn't do. Almost looks as though we're enriching them in specific industries that could turn around and destroy our supposed best friend, the United States of America. While political tensions have impacted diplomacy, trade has remained relatively stable, with both countries recognizing the potential for deeper economic cooperation. Well, folks, with that massive trade deficit, how much more would you like to take on? Would you like to double it or triple it, right? Because all that happens, the more deals your politicians sign with China or India, our trade deficit increases substantially. And I think everybody can see that. Key aspects of Canada-India trade relationship: bilateral trade. 2023, Canada's exports to India were worth $5.1 billion, making India its 9th largest export market. So remember what I told you? Here we are, right, in Canada-India relationship. A trade deal we have with India, USA doesn't. USA's already wiped us out of our majors, and here we are down on the list. Now, China won't budge, but here's USA attacking India, and this is India relation to Canada in any attempt for Canada to go around trade. Okay? But you see that 9th largest export market for Canada. Another one of our trade partners, USA, is nailing. It's a war against Canada. If you haven't figured it out, Americans and Canadians, everything Trump's doing, which is bringing a lot of money to America anyway, it's all about disrupting Canada, US. And Canada disrupted world stage severely. Now this is a big one. Services trade. Canada enjoys a substantial surplus in service trade with India. In 2023, Canada's service export to India, ready for this, worth $14.6 billion, while its service imports were only $3.22 billion. Now, I did a huge special that's deleted now just as this video will be done. And I'm going to tell everybody, credible, real, verifiable. I know for all my followers, they're loyal and stay with it. You know, but so many don't, that the banking financial system that had usurped the 12 banking system districts in the United States was usurped by Canada and Toronto Dominion, Royal Bank, Bank of Montreal. TD became USA's 10th largest bank. How is that even possible, right? Well, it's possible in the fentanyl right to India. There it is. Financial, $14.6 billion. Tremendous in drugs, tremendous in trafficking, all of it. And USA's catching them steady. We know Homeland, FBI, they're catching them. They booted out so many of Canada's banks out of the states of the Union in their banking districts. America's financial system is much, much different. Inflation does not follow the lender. Canada, inflation follows the lender, the borrower. USA, inflation follows the lender. In Canada, inflation follows the borrower. And then Canada's been up to no good with all kinds of corruption, trafficking, human drugs, you name it, fraud, embezzlement, all kinds of stuff. They've had mass amounts of Canadian institutions now closed and shut down in so many banking districts in the United States. They've caught on. But here it is in India, massive. Like I said, when I show fentanyl all the way to the opiate system of Great Britain, you find all Canada's banks all through that original crown system. Canada's major exports to India include agriculture, energy products, which is going to get interesting. India has dried legumes, primarily coal, just like China, wood, pulp, paper, fertilizers, major imports, pharmaceuticals, machinery, including nuclear and electronic, diplomatic tensions, recent political tensions stemming from allegations right? The assassination of a Canadian citizen have impacted. Well, that's all gone, guys. Wiped away, no big deal. In fact, now politicians are meeting with India. Let's fight USA. And again, you're going to see Alberta front and center on it. Ongoing engagement despite tensions, both countries continue to engage in bilateral dialogues. We know that. Cooperation, trade, and investment. So here's USA. They're making their way down the list. China so far isn't budging. Now Donald Trump's on India. And it's all about trade and the investment, cutting off Canada's investments. Economic complementarity. India's rapidly growing economy projected to become the world's third largest by the end of the decade, making it a key market for Canadian businesses. Even though we're losing out extremely hard, the only ones winning are the Crown financial institutions, not Canadians. It's only Crown corporations are doing good, while Canadian private businesses, by regular Joe Jane Canadians, are losing epically. That's the loss of market share and the taking over of our businesses here in Canada. Canada has significant investment portfolio in India, with estimates exceeding 100 billion, all from the Crown, highlighting India's attractiveness as an investment destination. Canadian companies in India. Numerous Canadian companies, including those of all sizes, operate in India, and many more are actively pursuing business opportunities in the Indian market. Of course, all of our 90% of immigrants come from India. We're importing it, and we're even giving them our money as Canadian taxpayers to start up businesses and set up back home. And of course, what happens to the Canadians? You get devalued, your public debt increases, your market share decreases, your jobs move out of Canada and go back to India. That's what's happening. And anyone telling you anything different in the last 13 years is just a liar, because it's not true. Again, which companies are doing well with India? All Crown corporations. Multinationals with distinct Crown titles, distinct, if it's not Canada, they come from the 9 kingdoms. Hindustan. Important conversations on trade ties with India will be enabled by the return of high commissioners to the 2 capitals, Canada ministers. So this is Ottawa. Look, what does that say down there? Can you guys see it? Just want to highlight on that. Oh, published August 4th, 2025. That was this morning, right? 10:49 a.m. Oh, so there's Canada. Look at that. High commissioners are going back. We're going to increase trade with India because Canadians don't need jobs. Canada's Trade Minister Maninder Sidhu said Ottawa is taking step-by-step approach towards repairing the relationship with India. So Canadians, right? Just so you all are aware, like we're looking for sovereignty, right? Canada's sovereignty. Was it sovereignty when they had foreign people in our countries executing people? Whether you like it or not, right? I'm just saying this is a BRICS nation. This has serious implications at the United States. Trump's coming on strong, and tit for tat, everything Trump publishes, your government goes the other way. Further away from the United States of America. If this doesn't ring bells after 2 of Trump's posts hammering on India, and here's Canada, come on, we'll replace you with the United States. Well, geez, we're going to go from substantial trade surplus to a massive trade deficit. Can you imagine expanding trade with India 100 more times? We would be a third world country too. Canadians would be working for $10 an hour, just like India. That's where you're going to go. That's what the Crown wants. They'll get rich. I showed you the services trade going very well, right? All the Crown financial institutions, crown corporations are going to do extremely well, but not any of you. There's more. Toronto, a senior Canadian leader, has said the important conversations around trade ties with India will be enabled by a return of High Commissioner Capitals. Sorry, I'm just showing you the picture, I guess. There's more to it. This is the story. Canada and India expect to have high commissioners in place in New Delhi and Ottawa within the next 4 to 6 weeks, filling a vacuum that has been placed since October last year. Canada has not had a high commissioner in New Delhi since last summer when Cameron McKay left the post. India withdrew its high commissioner in Ottawa, Sanjay Kumar Verma, in October last year, along with 5 other officials after Canada asked New Delhi to waive their diplomatic immunity. Could be questions in relation to violent criminal activity in the country. In retaliation, India expelled its 6 Canadian diplomats, including its then acting High Commissioner, Stuart Wheeler. Alberta and India have a growing trade relationship, particularly in agricultural products, energy, and technology. All areas Canada agreed they wouldn't go in, 2 of those, into against the United States. They agreed to that. Alberta exports, this is important, vegetables, nickel, energy products, wood, pulp to India while importing iron and steel machinery and textiles. Efforts are ongoing to strengthen these ties through trade missions, agreements, and educational partnerships, which is another one. When you go to Alberta, everybody, when you go to a university in Alberta, you'll find that the attendance from India at all of Alberta's major universities is probably in the 80 to 85% ratio. And that's the last time I checked was in Alberta in 2019. I actually knocked on every door. One of my MLA candidates ran in that riding, and we went out and made sure. And I went with him door by door, and I did that interview. I'm sure that video has been destroyed, but he was shocked, and he will never be the same. His view on Alberta and Canada, and he got out of politics over that, because we spent 3 days knocking on every dorm door, every single one, thousands of doors at the University of Alberta. It was the hardest signature drive I've ever done in my life. Oh, sorry, I'm not from Canada. I'm from India. I'm not citizen. That's what we got. All university students, all of them. Just imagine what it is today. And we're going to get into nickel because that's important, and those words on Donald J. Trump's post. And then they say Alberta's oil and gas sector's significant export to India through global relationship with China has become increasingly complex. So we have the China FIPA deal. We set up all these things for China, and now we're trading a lot of that to India to get around being direct with China because of USA. Well, that's the whole post of Donald Trump. And again, we're going to get back. Alberta isn't a massive nickel producer. Sudbury, Ontario is. And when you guys all see this, no matter where you are in Canada, it's important to understand Sudbury and understand that that's where Alberta's getting a significant amount of its nickel, which for oil and gas, absolutely, I know that, but that's not a significant sector for India. It is for China. Where it comes is in the war machine, increasing the war machine that India purchases entirely from Russia. And that's right in Donald J. Trump's post. This is absolutely on Alberta. And again, please, everybody, if you're smarter than me, I can get everything from Sudbury mines. I can get everything from Saskatchewan uranium mines. Everywhere it goes in quantities, all of it, full disclosure. But yet I can't get any out of Alberta. None. If you can do it, I'll wait for someone to post that. I want to see companies, type, amount. Like, I know the money, but I don't know what and who. And I can't find it. So if someone's smarter than me, from what I'm understanding is it's kept under lock and key, which is a big red flag. If you were the United States of America, that would be a huge red flag. And then right? And look, Indian technology companies like Mphasis, Wipro, and TCS have established a presence in Alberta. They're not the only ones. Education, universities in both regions collaborate on research and student exchange programs. How many Canadians who are born in Canada and speak English are going to school in India? I can tell you, it's all Indian speaking Indians who go back to India and Indians who come here. That's the exchange program. All Indians via versa, right? Other exports, there's the nickel. Both Alberta and India recognize the potential for further growth and collaborations in areas like oil and gas, infrastructure, environmental technologies. Alberta is also looking to diversify from the United States. I should have had that whole thing in there, but it clearly says diversify from the United States, just like Mark Carney and his minister. But don't worry, if you don't believe me, I'm about to show you out of the words, out of the mouth of the beast. Future growth. Both Alberta and India recognize the potential for further growth and collaboration in areas like oil and gas, infrastructure, environmental technologies. Well, there it is. Alberta is also looking to diversify its export markets beyond the United States. Remember, everybody, that's with the BRICS nation. That's in conjunction with China and Russia, right? Because those are trading partners, military, economic alliances. 1, 2, 3. Not the United States of America. So when Alberta says that, when Canada has said that, so we got Mark Carney's minister, and I'm going to show you who just said all this. Here it is, right here. In an exclusive with Get Em Owen, Alberta's Deputy Premier and Public Safety Minister Mike Ellis says the province is ready to work with India to tackle transnational threats from Lawrence Bishnoi gang and Khalistani elements. So they're forgiving all that. We're going to fight. Ali says India and Alberta share a common bond on public safety and calls for deeper cooperation even as ties remain strained. Watch this crucial interview. There he is. I can't make that up. From Ottawa to repeat in Alberta, Deputy Premier Mike Ellis under Danielle Smith. All for India. Yeah, 35 likes, right? Because you won't find out about it. It's a secret. It's for India. Shh. See that? India Today Global. That's Mike Ellis. That's his video. Exactly what Carney said and his minister is exactly what Danielle Smith and her minister are saying. I didn't find any videos or any posts or any other correspondence from Scott Moe out of Saskatchewan or any of his ministers. The only ministers I can find is Mark Carney's and Premier Danielle Smith's deputy premier. Think about that. That's just since August 1st, you guys. I'm not sure. I think I got one from work in there. Nickel, closest thing. Are you ready for that? Nickel, closest thing to a true war metal. I want you to look at that date. 2007, out of Sudbury, who is Canada's largest source of nickel, a massive mine. Sudbury was definitely going to be nuked by the Russians. At least that was our conclusion back in 1976 when I worked at CVRD Inco's Carabella Mill for a year. Heart of that. This was all worked out. It was on the Soviet Union's hit list. You can't let the war metal out. Well, guess what, Sudbury? Guess what, Ontario? Guess what, Premier Doug Ford? The trade Alberta's doing that you think is all for oil and gas, refineries, all of those major industries in Alberta, which we have no major projects right now. And I'm not saying shutdowns come and go and you're swapping out spools. I know all about it. Inconel. I know all about actually 100% nickel. I get that. There's piping. There's no doubt it's being utilized in that respect. But there's definitely in the millions of dollars a bunch going out to India from Alberta. When you read this report, it's huge. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Sudbury's role. Sudbury is a significant source of nickel, with Glencore's Sudbury Integrated Nickel Operations, Sudbury INO, being a major player. Alberta's refinery, Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, is home to a nickel refinery that processes nickel from various sources, obviously including Sudbury, the number one source. Other Canadian provinces mined and milled, refined from Quebec, Newfoundland, Labrador, but as you're going to see who signed the new agreement for India, and Ontario's there. So it's absolutely all of Sudbury's nickel that Sudbury warned about, that's in reports not to, that's Donald Trump's message of war metal. Well, Alberta's the one. And I'm going to show you that agreement that was just signed and ratified. Nuclear cooperation agreement. Canada and India have a nuclear cooperation agreement that allows for the export of Canadian nuclear materials to India. Highly enriched uranium ore at 20%, far outpacing the best sources in Kazakhstan. Yeah, Russia would love to have it. But Russia sells India, because India is a Commonwealth country, with a nuclear deal with Canada, with all kinds of deals with Canada. Safeguards. A key aspect of the agreement is that Canadian exports are only sent to facilities in India that are under International Atomic Agency safeguards. Well, that's great, except for they can be transferred out. They can be transferred out. We know this because I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what happened after this agreement was done. The first thing that happened is India launched a ballistic missile, tested one. And now they've increased their ballistic missiles to 180. Donald Trump knows. Where did they get the nickel? Where did they get the enriched uranium ore? Not hard to figure out. End use assurances. The Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, right in Ontario, I know this to be true, requires India to provide end use assurances for each shipment, confirming it's for peaceful purposes. Sure. But what about those companies in Alberta? Just like Sudbury, right? Oh, well, it's going to be put in there. It's going to be used for these peaceful purposes. Are you sure? What about the companies who are not reporting in Alberta? Has anyone looked into that? Donald J. Trump, I certainly am sure is. His post sends a lot of red flags. So, politics, right? We're going to go into some history here. Canada-India uranium deal will spur proliferation. Experts warn. Arms control experts, USA, say Canada sends the wrong signal to countries that play by the rules. This was posted in 2015. And yes, the deal was made under the Harper government. And yes, Daniel Smith is directly related to that government. India test-fired a nuclear-capable ballistic missile Thursday, just hours after signing a deal to buy 3,000 tons of Canadian uranium. The AGNI-3 missile, which has a range of over 3,000 kilometers, was fired from India's Army's test range on Weir Island in the Bay of Bengal. India declared the test a success. It's a sign of India's confidence with the help of Canada. It's finally left behind its status as a rogue nuclear nation and become an accepted member of the nuclear arms establishment. Right? Hey, Canadians, do you know any of this? Right? Well, we're going to get into it. Yes, India imports natural uranium from Canada, including material from Alberta. A news article from 2015, I just showed you, reports that Camco, Canadian company, signed a contract to supply uranium concentrate to India's Department of Atomic Energy. This agreement of a broader nuclear cooperation agreement between the two countries was worth CAD $350 million. And there's some millions in Alberta now beyond this. But I can't get any more details. Like I have everything Cameco out of Saskatchewan, that's all there. I can't get any information on Alberta's. None. If I can't, chances are the White House, Homeland Security, Donald J. Trump's administration can't either. Economic significance. This agreement was seen as a significant economic milestone for Saskatchewan's uranium mining industry and the broader Canadian economy, according to the Saskatchewan government. The deal created new markets for Canadian uranium and helped India expand its nuclear power capacity. Beyond Saskatchewan, while the initial shipment originated in Saskatchewan, Canada's uranium resources are also located in other regions, including Alberta, making it a potential source for future exports to India. And they are now. They are now, and I'm going to show you why. Wasn't then, it is now. Alberta, and more broadly Canada, sells uranium to India. This uranium is intended for peaceful civilian purposes and is subject to international safeguards, ensuring it's not used for nuclear weapons. It's not used for nuclear weapons. The agreement between Canada and India allows for the export of uranium concentrate, with first shipment arriving in India in July of 2025. So we know Alberta's doing it. I know how much, but I don't know who. Canada, particularly Saskatchewan, is a major uranium producer, and India is a growing market for nuclear energy, which would be great. Right? And I go into all the rules. And Cameco, I'm not accusing Cameco of anything. There's another one, Organa. They're the other one in Saskatchewan, and they produce everything, right? Just so you know, Canada halted it exports to India in 1976 due to concerns about the use of Canadian technology in India's nuclear weapons program. But the restrictions were eased after a nuclear cooperation agreement was finalized in 2013 under Stephen Harper. It stayed in place the whole time. Now, about India, this is an important one, which I gotta blow up. Even I can't read that. It shows, oh yeah, Alberta. This is on the Alberta Government of Alberta website, showing how much, where, what products. So I get the nickel, the uranium products, right? So I know we're in the $100 million range. The implementation of this waiver makes India the only... Oh, I gotta blow this down. The implementation of this waiver makes India the only known country with nuclear weapons which is not a party to the non-proliferation agreement and the non-testing agreement, but allowed to carry out nuclear commerce with the rest of the world. And of course, Canada is highly enriched because they're both in the Commonwealth. UK allows it. Is India allowed to have nuclear weapons? India's estimated to possess approximately 180 nuclear warheads. It has land-based, sea-based, and air-launched nuclear capabilities. The state has declared a no first use policy, which means they vowed to never use nuclear weapons first in a conflict. What countries are allowed to make nuclear weapons? Non-Proliferation Treaty. Treaty allows peaceful nuclear technologies but limits nuclear weapons to 5 nations. United Nations Security Council. United States, Russia, UK, France, and the People's Republic of China. You can look at that. It's updated June 17th, 2025. India is also a subscribing state to the Hague Code of Conduct. India has signed neither the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which we watched in 2015. They launched right after getting all the nuclear products from Canada, highly enriched. 20%, best source in the world, far outpacing Kazakhstan and Russia. And Russia gets it from Kazakhstan. So they're getting it from Canada, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. So they never signed either one. They continue on, and they're a BRICS member with Russia and China. So you ready? India increased its nuclear warhead count to 180 in 2024 SIPRI report. The Stockholm International Peace Research reports on nuclear arsenal expansion in India and Pakistan, warning of a dangerous arms race and crisis potential. Guarantee you, Canada's involved. They've already told you. Canada and India in India is a significant involving a 5-year contract over 7 million pounds of uranium from Cameco Saskatchewan mine, but it's one piece of India's overall nuclear fuel strategy. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Remember, that ore is 20% enriched, far over the maximum 5% Canada uses. Canada doesn't even use or is allowed to use its own ore. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Canada-India Nuclear Cooperation. A nuclear cooperation agreement, NCA, between Canada and India allows for the export of nuclear materials and equipment for peaceful purposes subject to safeguards and oversight by the International Atomic Energy Agency at 20% enriched ore. Okay. Other suppliers. India also sources, right? Who do the other sources? Including Kazakhstan and Russia. Kazakhstan, the second best highly enriched ore coming out of the ground. And of course Russia, who has some too, but enriches all of their uranium. And has plans to expand its nuclear capacity. Sorry, I'll make that smaller for you. So the three suppliers are Canada, specifically Saskatchewan and Alberta, which we can't measure Alberta's because there's no documentation. Kazakhstan and Russia. Does this give you alarm bells yet? So this is where things get interesting and why India rapidly moved up nuclear arms race. The move comes after, you guys remember this, Alberta joined a partnership with Saskatchewan, Ontario, and New Brunswick to develop a new technology in April. There is strong momentum in Canada towards a new nuclear reactor technologies that have the potential to supply power nationwide, including remote, on or off-grid areas. English River First Nations D-Netty Group CEO Sean Willey said. As the three Indigenous organizations who are highly experienced in servicing the nuclear industry, it made perfect sense for us to get together and jointly pursue exploring opportunities in this exciting and emerging industry. And there you find the birth of Canada's trade with India in these areas of what? Nickel, the war machine, nickel, nuclear, highly enriched uranium ore out of Saskatchewan. The only minister I can find talking about this and making this new relationship with India is one, our federal minister under Mark Carney, and Deputy Premier under Danielle Smith. I just showed you guys that earlier. First Nations probably have no idea that this is the problem with Canada without having constitutions, without any checks and balances, and it's what continually drives the United States nuts. They know it to be the reason why they have such immigration problems and fentanyl from Canada, and it's also the reason provinces are going around and behind backs, and it's a sneak thing with all these other countries, and Trump's awakened to it. He sees it. He's posting it. Mining uranium, which refuels nuclear technology, is a major driver of the economy in northern Saskatchewan. Canada's uranium comes from the McArthur River and Cigar Lake mines, which is the largest in the world, and produce the highest grade in the entire world. Produce the highest grade. Out of the ground, 20% enriched. Canadians can't even use it. Canada and India established bilateral relations in the 19th century. Both are member nations of the Commonwealth of Nations and are part of the G20, a group of largest economies. Canada's got an agreement directly with India through the Commonwealth. Deals USA doesn't have, all Canada has. Nuclear, economic, technology, and security. Direct violations of the agreement they signed, USMCA, with the United States of America. Specifically, what I already showed you in the last video, it puts Canada and absolutely a number of regions of Canada, meaning aka the provinces, in direct violation, which means we're not going to get a UNSC agreement. Can you imagine the next round of sanctions, which are going to be major tariffs? How far until those sanctions become trade embargoes? They already are. The trade embargoes we are witnessing are the fact that there'll be no investment from the UK, from the European Union, from Japan, from South Korea. Go look at your G20. Next is going to be China and India. You watch. That's my video. People, take it as you want. Share, share, share. Everything in there. I know there was a lot of people never knew before today. I hope I did a lot for all of you. Put pressure on your provincial politicians. It's not just them. It's a federal crown. But the whole idea of this is to teach you what happens that you have no idea. That these people that you put in these left, right spheres are nothing of the sort. They fill their own pockets. They're one central system, one central crown government. It's them in a pyramid scheme and all of you underneath them. Be lucky you get a job. Well, they manipulate world. They fight or suppose best friend. We're all supposed to just flip. I can tell you all, 12 years ago, there was no way, shape, or form any Canadian would have agreed to any of this. You were all deadly against it. I know you were. But now today, Canadians in majority are happy and content with this, thinking it's normal. Some of that has to do with our massive immigration. A lot of it has to do with institutionalization. It's up to you to share, to get it out there. I hope this taught Americans a lot. I make this absolutely for my people of Canada, but it's also for Americans to know what Trump's facing. He faces on the world every day. When he says, my supposed best friends are our supposed to be best friends, he's not lying. And it's really sad that the dirty Democrats can't see these things for what they are. He's a tremendously intelligent man. He has a tremendously excellent Trump administrative team, 252 of them. It's amazing to see and live through. I'm excited about it, but at the same time, it's also hard being Canadian and hard stomaching all this as I watch this evil unfold and how people are bamboozled, that they believe, well, if I just elect this kind of crown, everything's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay because this government system is broken. It's not meant to be in the world in this day and age. It hasn't supposed to have been in this world since 1945. There was a promise of never again, but yet that evil that so many gave their lives for, the fascist socialist end. And I mean, we didn't get rid of all the socialism, but apparently the fascism would never survive. Well, it was always there for Canada, and it only grew, festered, and got stronger. And we see that caste system in India. We see developed relationships with communism, the socialist fascist systems merging on an epic scale. And nobody wants to do anything about it except for that man there, Donald J. Trump. It's going to be excellent to see all the posts and more on India. That's not going to end. And it's targeted specifically for Canada. And again, what? Canada's uncodified provinces, who are lunatics. These are autocratic positions that do whatever they want at the expense of all the people. Amoral evil. And a lot of Canadians don't see it. They don't want to believe it. But yet the evidence is overwhelming. It's in your face. It's undeniable and in your face evidence. August 4th, 2025. God bless everybody. Share, share, share. Get it out there. Undeniable.